What's going down, Z-Gens? Recording this video for the third time because the first time didn't have audio. The second time, I got a call where somebody thought it was super important to speak with me, and it was not important at all. So, I'm going to dive right in. For the year, guys, we are 12-8 when it comes to sides and totals picking. If you're looking at your screen right now, you will kind of see that breakdown week by week. Teasers over the last 3 weeks are an amazing 1-3. So guess what? We're not going to have a fucking teaser this week. That all being said, the picks for this week are right in front of you. Again, if you are looking at the screen, we have Texans, Falcons under 41.5. The Falcons are officially an under team. They are 3-1 to the under, with the only over being against the Packers, where it was just a shootout game. For whatever reason, Bijan got hot that game. The only over that they were able to get. Packers defense not amazing when it came to stopping the run that day. The second play is going to be Bears at Washington over 44. I will tell you right now that the official line is 44.5. I am asking that you buy that half point down to 44. To be completely honest with you, I think you'll probably be okay if you don't buy the hook down, but 44 is a key number when it comes to totals, and I can almost guarantee you're going to really kick yourself in the ass if that total lands at 44. The odds of it landing at exactly 45 are not great, but that all being said, those are the first two picks. And I'm going to get into some reasons why with the Bears game in just a second, but we'll come right back to that. The last play on the week is going to be the 49ers minus 3.5 versus the Cowboys. Now, the Cowboys, if you've been watching them at all this year, there's one thing that stands out and is very glaringly obvious. They suck in the red zone. I'm a Cowboys fan. I watch the Cowboys games as much as I can because some of these games got ridiculous. Like 40-0 against the Giants. That was just stupid. That was not even worth watching. 38-3 against the Patriots again. Just not really even worth the watch. But the red zone has been a struggle for the Cowboys. That red zone really kicks their ass good, man. I think they have a total of maybe like 4 or 5 touchdowns on the year, like offensive touchdowns. The majority of their touchdowns has actually come on defense. Surprisingly enough, I believe the defense has actually outscored the offense for whatever reason, and they are okay getting into the red zone. And then once they get there, McCarthy's true colors show. He gets super conservative. He wants to run the ball. He's trying to go like left and right, and just hoping and praying that someone can make a play. And it just doesn't typically work out. Personally, I think they should be going to Ferguson more in that area, especially like within the 10. They're just not doing it very frequently. So I don't see them scoring a lot of touchdowns. I think that's going to come back to bite them in the ass this week. Like I said, they do have a lot of defensive touchdowns, and that's really how they've been blowing these teams out of the water. The problem is the 49ers are not a sloppy team. The 49ers aren't the Giants. They aren't the Patriots. They actually have an elite offense. They have a lot of actual weapons on offense, unlike both of those teams, and even unlike the damn Cardinals, who beat the Cowboys. This team is going to have a lot of weapons to throw at them. Brock Purdy, while he's not like a top 3 quarterback in my eyes, the guy is efficient. He knows how to get it done. He's very quick with the release. He can diagnose the defense pretty much pre-snap. He's going to get the ball out almost on his second step every time. For the most part, he's a 1-2 release kind of guy. Obviously, he can and he will go further than that. He does like 3 and 5 step drops. But for the most part, that 49ers offense stays humming. It kind of stays on a schedule. They keep it moving. They keep the chains moving. And it's so hard to guard them because of that. And even if you are relying on your secondary and your linebackers to make some plays, tip some balls, anticipate some routes, you got to worry about Christian McCaffrey coming out of the back. And if you're so worried about trying to get the interceptions all the time, Christian McCaffrey is going to run all over you. I don't care how good your front four is. It's going to be real hard to decide what to do with Micah Parsons when you have to worry about George Kittle and or Christian McCaffrey. We have the 49ers who can score touchdowns, have a good defense, versus a Cowboys offense who cannot score touchdowns, allergic to the end zone apparently, but relies on a defense to win them the games. And that defense, to me, is going to be in for a shock this week against the actual top-tier offense. Statistically and analytics-wise, as we discussed in the summertime, offenses really dictate more to defenses what's going on, not the other way around, meaning a good defense will have a big impact on a poor offense. A good defense will have kind of a so-so effect on a good offense, and they will have a minimal effect on a great offense. So if you're an above average offense, I believe the statistic we gave was like a 0.03 differential. And that's, again, pretty minimal. It's 3% of a difference from a great offense when going up against a really good defense. Average was like 10% or 8%, 12%, somewhere in there, depending on your team, of a differential. And then a bad offense playing up against a good defense, they're more affected. It's more like a 30 to 35% difference when they're going up against a good defense. So, again, I just don't think the Cowboys are winning. They're going to have to go do everything right, have everything break their way, get some calls, anticipate some routes, jump some snaps to get this win. Not to say that it can't happen. Obviously, it's still football, it's still gambling, but I just don't anticipate it. And I think the 49ers probably make a pretty sound point here with this W. Now back to the Bears-Washington game on the over 44 and why I'm taking that. So the Bears are actually 4-0 to the over this year. And there's a handful of teams that have done pretty good against with the overs this year. And those three teams are the Bears, the Broncos, and the Colts. Now, would you be surprised if I told you out of the 64 games that have been played so far this year, only 28 of them have gone over the total? And of those 28 wins, 10 of them involved one of those three teams. So only 18 overs have hit this year that didn't involve those three teams. The Broncos, Bears, and Colts. Now, one thing that the Broncos and Bears at least have in common, and honestly I think to a certain extent even the Colts, their defenses are just not good. They pretty much allow whatever you want to do. It's kind of like, when you pay for one of those women of the night, they kind of just let them do what you want. That's kind of what these defenses are like. They're going to give you whatever you want. You're going to have, a good time. You're going to score for sure. It's just a matter of how you want it, So that being said, this game with the Bears, I think, is going to be a high-scoring game. Washington's going to put up some points. On the Washington offense, go back through their schedule, and you'll notice a couple things. So, first of all, they have 2 overs and 2 unders. The 2 overs that they have, though, they scored 35 points against those Broncos that I was just talking about, and they also scored 31 points against the Eagles, which is a divisional game, but still, this Washington team can put up some points when you let them. The 2 teams that kept them pretty much in check were the Bills and the Cardinals. The Bills limited them to 3 points. Bills' defense is really good, and they made the Washington team really, really one-dimensional really early on in that game. The Cardinals have a good defense. Actually, it's much better than people anticipated. The Cardinals still lost to Washington, but it was a 20-16 loss. Washington didn't get too crazy, but the 20-16 obviously is a total of 36. So you're really missing about 1 score from that game, and you hit at least a push on this 44. And in my opinion, that Bears offense is more explosive than the Cardinals offense. At least it can be, especially with somebody like Justin Fields back there. So the Bears 4-0 to the overs. Washington can put up some points. Neither of these defenses are really great. As far as the Washington defense, they gave up 16 to that Cardinals team that was still kind of figuring it out, that had just put in Josh Dobbs basically after cutting Colt McCoy like 2 hours before the game started. They also gave up over 30 to the Bills. I think it was 37 to the Bills that they gave up. He also had over 30 points allowed to both the Eagles as well as the Broncos. And the fact that the Broncos put up 33 points should tell you enough. This game should be flying over the total of 44. And again, this is a Thursday night game. So those are the picks. Now, as far as a few other items that I wanted to talk about, this is really going to be more just, again, analytics, data, stuff like that you should take into your everyday handicapping. And I'm going to give you some styles here. So, like I said earlier, there are teaser teams. These are 4 teams that I have found are really, really good to tease against or with. depending on the team, obviously. So the first two we're going to talk about are the Saints and the Raiders. If you teased against these two teams, they are each 4-0 when teased against. So you take the opponent, tease them up, typically as a dog, or to even tease through 0 if it's a favorite, and those teams have gone undefeated with the teasers. So for a combined 8-0. So you really want to tease against either one of those teams. Pretty simple read on this, and actually the reason I even started tracking this was because of the damn Saints game one year or 1 week. They were up by 10 and they ended up winning by 3. I believe it was against the Panthers. Really easy breakdown in this. So number one, their offenses are not great. Of these two teams, the highest weekly output that either of them has had is 20 points per the week. So they're really not going to blow up on the scoreboard, which means that if and when they do win, it's not going to be a 40-point game. It's going to be like a 20-17 kind of game, 20-14 kind of game. And secondly, the Saints specifically have shown the propensity to let offenses do whatever they're going to do when it comes down to the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game, assuming that they have a decent enough lead. If they're up by 10, they're going to go into prevent if there's 5 minutes left. They're not going to try to stop it. They're going to let that team score however they need to score, and then they're going to go ahead and just get the onside kickback and take a knee down. That's their game plan. That's how they play it. So whatever other team is playing against them is not ever officially out of it for the most part, unless something just goes completely wrong. And neither of these teams has a super dominant defense that would make that an issue. The Texans are 2-1-1 with teasers. Now, one of those games they were a favorite, so they're really 2-0-1 when put as a dog. So they've been a dog 3 times this year. Of those 3 times, they covered twice when teased. They pushed once when teased. The push was against the Ravens week 1, which should tell you enough right there that they at least pushed against the Ravens, because the Ravens week 1 is usually a pretty good blowout. We actually bet the Ravens week 1. It was a win for us, but it is something to just kind of hang their hat on, our hat on, I guess, as far as teasers are concerned. So looking to tease the Texans, especially or mainly when they are a dog, has been a good strategy so far, and I do expect that's going to continue, because while the lines have adjusted, the Texans are definitely taken a little bit more seriously than they were week 1. I do think there's still some room for value there. But lastly, the Rams are 4-0 when teased. So if you had teased the Rams every single week this season so far, you would have won at least that leg of the teaser every single time. Again, I'm not really putting a teaser out there this year or this week, but just know that if you are looking for one, any sort of combination of these 4 teams here that I'm giving you right now is going to be a plus EV move, just given the propensity for these teams. The Rams have just a good enough offense to where they're always in the game. The Texans, again, whether they're down big or they're up, if they're up, they're probably covering automatically, because a lot of games are either small favorites or dogs outright. But if they're down, a lot of times they're not really out, because a lot of these teams, especially against the Texans, are willing to just go prevent, let them kind of get that last-minute touchdown in there and cover your tease. So those are the teaser teams. As far as over teams, like I said, there are the 3 that are really sticking out to me, and that's the Bears, Colts, and Broncos. Bears are 4-0. The Colts and the Broncos are both 3-1 to the over. Again, all of these pretty much have the same breakdown. Really defenses that are either subpar or just outright not good for all 3 of them. The Colts, the one under that hit was actually with Minshew, and it was against the Ravens. So again, they played up against a good defense. They had their backup in there. 3-1, again, with that one over or one under, I should say, coming against kind of subpar circumstances. So those 3 teams are the ones you should be looking to take overs with, just given the situations. Obviously, the Bears and the Broncos defenses have not done anything great as of yet. Now, I will tell you that Bears do play some pretty good defenses coming up, so that may not be an auto play for much longer, but just keep that in mind. Also, though, under teams so far. So a lot of teams, like I said earlier, are going under the total. There has been 64 games, 28 have been overs. The other, I believe, is 36 at this point have been overs. Unders. One of the overs actually could be considered a push, just depending on what time you got it. It's the Eagles and Patriots from week 1. On my book, I listed it as a push here. But if you got it early, you got the over. If you had it late, it was the under. So it just depends on how you want to look at it. But that being said, these teams I'm about to go over are your under teams. So the Patriots are 3-0-1. Again, they were part of that push from week 1. Steelers at 3-1. The Saints at 4-0. Again, the Saints have the 20 points as their high mark for the year. The Raiders are 3-1. Again, with their high mark for the year being 18 points. So again, both of those teams just not really high on the scoreboard here. Keep in mind the Saints, we did take them at under 7.5 wins on the season, and that's looking pretty good so far. Raiders, we had under 7.5 wins on the season, and that's also still looking pretty good so far. The Vikings are 3-1 to the under. Now, I will tell you that one over that they got was against the Eagles, and I remember telling everybody that the Eagles were going to have an easy time scoring because they could run the ball. I will tell you that is the one kind of nick in the Vikings defense there is they can't stop the run. So I would not play any unders when they're playing a run team, because for the most part, if that team is going to commit to the run, the Vikings are going to let them do it. The Vikings-Panthers game last week, obviously that goes under. That pissed me off. That was one of the ones that we lost. But that being said, the rationale on that, at least you kind of know where I was coming from. Bucks again 3-1 to the under, obviously a defensive team. Falcons 3-1 to the under, very slow team because of their running style, and that's really all they got now. With Desmond Ridder not being able to pass, they're pretty much just a run team only, and defenses are playing that. They're not even really honoring the pass anymore, understanding that they can go man coverage in the back end, and that either their safety, their corner will make a play, and or Desmond Ridder will just not hit the open guy. Panthers 3-1 to the under, with the one over coming with Andy Dalton as a quarterback against the Seahawks. So a not so great defense with the probably better quarterback, honestly, at least in my opinion so far. As long as Bryce Young is in there, this is definitely an under team for me. Chiefs are 3-1. The one over came against Chicago, like I just said, because Chicago will let you do whatever you want to them as long as you pay them. Jets are 3-1 to the under, with the one over coming against the Cowboys. Obviously, there were defensive scores in that game, but more importantly than that, the total was very, very low. It's at 39 points, and the final total on that one squeaked out at 40. And you know what? I apologize. I don't even think there was a defensive total, the defensive score. The Cowboys just scored 30 points. So at 39, and it just barely squeaked over. You got it literally at a point over. Again, it just, if anything, kind of reaffirms you got to really have a team put up some serious points on that Jets team if you want them to get to the over. And you got to have the Jets at least score one touchdown, right? Because there are going to be games where they don't even do that. So, actually, I think this team, no, it's still under. They still went under against the Chiefs. So, that all being said, those are the teams to look at, guys, as far as unders and overs and teasers. So hopefully this helped. Hopefully you got some information. Follow along. Guys, if you don't already have a book, GT Bets and MyBookie are still running great promos. GT Bets specifically, they are giving 100% for your first deposit. MyBookie is matching, I believe, up to $200 for your first deposit as well. Take a look at those. I'm going to repost this video, put everything on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at AG_sports21, and you will get these plays a little bit earlier. Thank you again. Have a great day, and good luck.